I wanted to give everybody an update on my 78 model W72 400 4-speed Formula Firebird. It's been a year since I pulled the transmission out to rebuild it. Second gear was really bad in this car. Pulled the tranny out, built it, new second gear, new bearings, all that stuff. And this stuff shouldn't take as long as it does, but it does. So I got that together, and got the transmission built, got it put in, and the clutch pedal had started acting really goofy on this car even before I pulled the transmission out. Well, when I pulled the transmission out, I found why it was acting goofy. That right there had jumped out of that bracket, completely jumped out. And I think I had adjusted the clutch to make up for it, but this is why it had jumped out, and that's why the clutch pedal and everything was so stiff. Well, guess what? With the inner fender well in the car, you cannot get your hand in there to save your life. All these brake lines are in the way. The fender well comes down. It's just impossible. So I was really mad originally about having to pull the fender well out of the car. I thought, good grief, why does this have to be so hard that I got to pull the fender well out? Well, as I progressed with the repair, pulling the fender well out wound up being a huge blessing for me. A couple of things. One, it revealed this fuel line right here. That with the fender well in, I had never seen this rubber line. Now, I replaced all the rubber hoses on this car except that one. The one that was on here was the Born With hose, and it was horrible. I would not have found that had I not had to pull the fender well out. Well, I got over being mad about having to pull the fender well out when I got to that. All right, so ever since I've had the car, I had no rear brakes. We had front brakes, no rear brakes. When we had it up in Corsicana, me and Terry doing all the work on it, a new exhaust system, all kinds of floor pans, all kinds of stuff. We never could get any fluid to the rear brakes. The brake master cylinder that was on the car originally looked like it had been replaced. So we kept messing with it, but we never could get any fluid to the rear brakes. And I finally just brought the car home. And I bet I haven't driven this car a mile the whole time I've owned it. Not 1 mile. I've been working on it the whole time. Well, here's the debacle that I came across. This is something, you want to watch this video, it's worth learning this. Here's the master cylinder and booster that was on the car when I got it. And that master cylinder looks pretty good, and the inside of it looks real good. I believe this master cylinder had been replaced very recently. Well, those of you that have done master cylinders and you bleed master cylinders, you know that when you fill this master cylinder up with fluid and bleed it, if you take the plugs out, both of these will drip brake fluid. They will both, if everything's working good, they will both drip brake fluid. Well, this master cylinder on the car would not drip any fluid out of that hole. I could get fluid to drip out of this hole, and if I took the line off and mashed the brake pedal down, I'd get a teeny tiny, like a very tiny, not a good squirt flow of fluid. So I thought, hey, master cylinder's bad. Well, how many of you guys, especially if you're an actual mechanic for a living, I bet I have put hundreds, bench bled and put hundreds of master cylinders on, and you bench bleed it, you take them off, you bench bleed them, and you slam them on, what we call slamming it. You put the nuts on, zip it down, and the job's over, it's done. Well, way back in 1980, I learned a lesson when I was a Ford mechanic working on Ford. We got a brand new Ford Fairmont in, and right off the truck, when you went and drove, as you went to go drive the car, the front brakes got more and more applied automatically by themselves. the car would finally, the front brakes would apply so much as you were driving and heat was building up that the car would stop and you'd have to let it cool off and the brakes would release and then you could make it back to the shop. Well, back in those days, the service managers did a lot of diagnosis, and our service manager, God rest his soul, decided it needed a new master cylinder. Well, since it was a brand new car model, we had to wait like a week or 2 weeks to get one from Ford. I bench split it, put it on, same problem. So during my diagnosis, I found that this push rod sticking out of the power brake booster on that brand new Fairmont, it was turned out too much and was just very lightly pushing on the brake master cylinder all the time, just enough to put a little bit of drag on the front brakes, and then as the front brakes heated up from the drag, they would apply more and more and more. So I think I turned that a couple of rounds and it fixed that car. Well, I knew that, and I've known it in my career. Now, I've only seen it one other time until this car. This is the third time I've seen it since 1980. Looky here. I bought that new master cylinder. I bench bled that new master cylinder, and I slammed it on. Same thing. As long as the master cylinder was on the bench, it would drip fluid out of here. When I bolted it down, the fluid stopped immediately, and I could get nothing out of that portion of the master cylinder. Look at this. Look at that rocking. See that? See that? That is pushing on that master cylinder at least 1/8 of an inch. At least 1/8 of an inch. Enough that it's pushing on it enough that it's moving that piston enough that it was shutting. It was not allowing the fluid to come down through the master cylinder into the bore for that piston. So when I was trying to figure this out, my first, and that's not adjustable, by the way, on that booster. There's no adjustment. So I'm trying to figure it out, and I flopped down here in the floor of the car to try to see if I could see something causing a problem. And yeah, sure enough, the brake light switch. The brake light switch right there was just adjusted way down. Way down to that pedal. Way down. So I said, oh, there it is. The brake pedal switch causing it. So I backed that thing off a good, I don't know, a solid inch, and went back and retested. Well, same thing. Exact same thing. So, lucky for me, when you have multiple parts cars sitting around, I took the new master cylinder. Carried it out to that parts car, put it up against the power brake, took the original master cylinder, I'll put this up against the booster, and it went right on. No, there was no pushing on the master cylinder, no nothing. It slammed right up, just like a normal master cylinder. So I knew then that old booster was bad. There's my booster that I bench top restored off of that parts car out there. This is a new master cylinder with lifetime warranty. I have painted this master cylinder because if you don't, they will rust on you. They are bare metal, and they will rust really quick and look terrible under the hood. So always put a coat of paint on your master cylinder. And notice that looks like just exactly like it looked when it came out of the box, except it's got a coat of paint on it. I found some paint. This right here. I found this paint at O'Reilly's. It is Duplicolor engine enamel with ceramic. And I don't know where the cap is off of it, but when you go to O'Reilly's and you look at their engine enamel, the cap will look like cast iron. And I painted the master cylinder. I painted the equalizer valve. And guys, that looks just like cast iron to me. So that's the kind of paint you want to go with. And while I've been down here, I went ahead and cleaned, and now don't worry about this. I'm gonna clean this off. I went ahead and buffed all the rust off and painted the rotor, and we got the brand new calipers and loaded calipers and pads on it. Went ahead and cleaned up the end of this sway bar link here. Now, I sprayed all this down real good 3 or 4 times with Easy Off oven cleaner. So confidence is high when I pull this car outside where and get my pressure washer on it. We're going to be able to get all of this completely clean because that Easy Off melts that heavy caked on grease. And now the task at hand is polyurethane sway bar end link bushings, which are going to go right there to replace the ones that were completely trashed. Now, on to the gauges. When I gave y'all my last update, I told you that my gauges were not working, and they weren't. None of them. Look at this handy dandy little gauge tester. I got this off Amazon. It's for Ford fuel tanks, but basically it's just a 3-position resistor. It's got different ohm settings for 3 positions. So here's the water temperature sending unit that was on the car when I got it. See that? And this wire right here hooks to that water temperature gauge. Well, the water temperature gauge has never worked on this car, and I've had the cluster in and out a couple of times, more times than I want. So this little tester right here, you simply hook it up to the sending unit, and then hook the red wire to the sending unit wire, hook the other to ground, and now that gauge that never worked, not once, when I turned the key on, we're going to be able to see that. Yeah, there we go. When I see that, the gauge stood right up in the middle. All right, that's not a problem with the gauge. That's a problem with the sending unit. And what I found is this is not a water temperature gauge sending unit. This is a sending unit for a light. It's simply on and off. It has no range of adjustment in it to run a gauge. Now, my oil pressure gauge is not working, and since I got this little tool, I was able to hook it up to my oil pressure gauge wire on the other side. Turns out I've got no power coming out of the instrument cluster going to the oil pressure sending unit. So I've got one of 2 things wrong. I'm going to have to pull the cluster back out. I've either got something wrong with the output wire from the cluster over here to the sending unit, or my gauge, that power comes from the gauge in the cluster. The gauge itself may have power going to it, but no power coming out, which means it would be a bad oil pressure gauge. And luckily, I've got 3 parts cars with Trans Am instrument clusters. I'm going to make that oil pressure gauge work tomorrow. So this handy dandy little tool, I got that off of Amazon. That's a really good, really cool little tool that really helps with diagnosis. And I'll show you right quick what the actual cure is and the part number in case you need it. This was real inexpensive. Really, really inexpensive. Once you know what's wrong. TS6. I just picked this up at a standard auto parts. TS6. And notice, this is how you can tell the difference in sending units. Notice that one. The other one has a male spade, and then this one is made with the circle top. Sending units for temperature gauges always have that circular top, and for the on and off, the hot light, they always have a spade terminal. All right. Now, one last thing on the brakes I want to show you. You got to have a check valve in your power brake booster, and including the one on this car originally was bad. I pulled a couple out of my other cars that I have, and they would not check either. These things have a little bitty diaphragm inside them, and of course, like anything else, over 50 years of abuse, they quit functioning. Here's the original out of the booster, and you can see that diaphragm down in there has got this torn really bad. It vacuum goes right straight through it. Hopefully this one will hold vacuum one way, which is what they're supposed to do. Comes with a couple of grommets. It was cheap. Only thing I hate is, and here's some trivia for you. The Firebirds and Trans Ams that I have, all their cars are white. My 79 Z28, black. My 80 model Z28, black. Now, that's kind of weird that Camaros had black ones. Pontiac Firebirds had white ones, but oh well. All right, there you go. Let me flip this around. See if I can flip this camera around. Come on, camera, flip around. Nope, won't let me. All right, anyway, if I blow through this one, it blows all the way through. If I blow through this one, it blows all the way through. If I attempt to blow through this one that way, it's blocked. It won't let you. That's a check valve. That's a vacuum check valve. It lets this booster fill up with vacuum, and then if your motor dies, the check valve, there's enough vacuum held in reservoir in the booster, because it's holding vacuum because of that check valve, to get 1 or 2 stops in case the engine dies for some reason. So these are very important, especially on this high performance junk like we drive and enjoy. So be sure that you've got a good functioning check valve, and that is exactly what we are fixing to have. So that's not everything. I got the fender well real completely sanded and cleaned and painted and nice, and it's going to be ready to go back in tomorrow. Yeah, this shop is terrible, and this is after a month of cleaning, but it's getting there. And there's our fender well. There's our fender well all cleaned up and ready to go. So originally, I was extremely miffed that I had to pull that fender well out to fix that clutch linkage. But now, with everything that is going on, I am not upset. I am not mad anymore about the fender well. So there is a very long update on the Firebird. So I think tomorrow's the day, guys. I think tomorrow is the day. Got them year 117s. I think tomorrow's the day. I think tomorrow is the day. We will be driving the Firebird today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. And I hope you enjoy it. Tomorrow, hopefully we'll have a driving video. I'll get me somebody to ride shotgun, and we'll get you a good driving video tomorrow. Thanks a lot, everybody.